Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the show that tells you everything that you should do before saying I do. This is Before I Do. For those of you engaged, dating, want to be married, or don't know if you want to be married, or just happily single, this is the show for you. Our job is to facilitate courageous conversations on topics related to dating and relationships.
All right, this show is intended to be interactive. So, yes, find the area where you can put in a comment, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, whatever. We want to hear from you. So get ready for our Speak Now Forever Hold Your Peace questions. We will give you some call and responses, and we just want to hear your thoughts, comments, or just your ideas. So again, this is interactive. Welcome to Before I Do. My name is Charmaine Jennings.
My name is Walter Jennings. We are Couples Academy practitioners, and it is our honor to be with you here this evening and a part of the amazing evening lineup for Couples Academy. For those of you who joined us last night for SOS with Miss Lakeisha Shipman Hines, thank you so much. Yeah, great conversation. And so carrying over to tonight, we have a very, very hot topic.
Hot topic.
I know you're looking for your, where's the bell?
I know. I just realized I'm playing my bell.
Got to ring the bell. And so tonight, the 5 love languages has been a very popular topic amongst couples and in relationships for a number of years with Dr. Gary Chapman and his book, The 5 Love Languages,
That's right.
The Secret to Love That Lasts. And so we thought it was you. Well, actually, you're the one that came up with the idea about us talking about the 5 love languages, but with a really unique perspective.
Absolutely. So our topic is toxic expectations, and we're gonna tackle each one of the 5 love languages. But tonight we are focused on acts of service, and this one is near and dear to my heart because that is my love language. And the love languages, they're a great form of research because it describes how you give and express love and how you enjoy to receive that love as well.
However, love languages can also be used to, one of my favorite words is weaponize. Where when you can utilize your love language to also weaponize, and it can become toxic in your relationship in a way to where it is not a help, but it's actually a detriment and takes away. And not only as the person that is whose primary love language that it is, and as Charmaine mentions, it is her number one. And so it can be a way that it can become a detriment in your relationship as the receiver and also as the giver as well. So we want to delve into that when you talk about these 5 love languages and being armed with that information, making sure that you are using it in a way that is going to be beneficial to your relationship.
That's right. And so we're going to start off with really talking about toxic expectations. We want to start first of all with what does it mean to really, when they're not toxic, that means they're safe. So what are some positive, safe expectations?
And that's important because we hear words like safe spaces and toxic toxic masculinity. We hear these terms being tossed around, but how many times have we really taken the time to really sit down and really to define what it means, and also to make sure that we're defining those words within the context of the particular topic that we're discussing.
That's right.
So when we talk about safe as it relates to acts of service.
Right. So pretty much when we think about what is safe, let me see it here. All right. So pretty much when expectations are safe, there is a sense of having the person at the heart of, they're always in the forefront of your mind, as in your why. Why are you doing this? And so pretty much when we have expectations, we're doing something for someone, we are seeing that person. What do they look like, feel like, sound like? What joy are they going to get out of it? We're thinking about the individual who, man, I know they're going to find appreciation in this. Meaning you don't have expectations. You're not expecting public recognition. You're not expecting a parade. You're not even really addicted to the response that you expect. It is really it's safe when I am doing this and I really have zero expectations for what I expect to get out of it. But really my goal is just to serve.
Absolutely. And so when we look at the flip side of that, when acts of service are toxic, those are when they are disingenuous, when they're not coming from a sincere place, when they are used to manipulate or control. Also to adhering to an if then mentality. I am doing this, I am giving in order to get something. So I am not giving out of the goodness of my heart. I actually have motives as it relates to why I am doing what I am doing. Intentionally seeking acknowledgement or praise for actions, just like Charmaine was mentioning, where on the flip side, where when it's safe, you're not looking for that acknowledgement, you're not looking for the praise. But when it is toxic, then you're actually looking for that acknowledgement and the praise. And when it is not received, then it actually becomes an environment where it becomes aggressive or violent. That aggression can be verbal. That aggression can be physical, and so
it could be passive.
It could also be passive, where either way it is really pulling at the fabric of the relationship, because again, it is not coming from a sincere and an honest place. So that toxic, and I will admit, I've had some seasons where in the beginning of our marriage where I tried to serve intentionally with the idea of, well, if I do this, then this should happen. And when that result didn't happen, it made me very angry. It made me very bitter, and it did really pull on our relationship in a negative way. But it all started because I wasn't doing it from an authentic place. I was being disingenuous in my actions and my intentions.
And I never noticed.
I don't believe that.
I'm joking. I'm just joking. Yeah, he did make it known when he wasn't really happy with the end result, right? Right. And so we love these conversations because whether you're married, whether you're dating or whatever, it is important for you to always audit your why.
Absolutely.
Why are you doing this, right? Is it really about the person or is it really about you?
That's right. And acts of service should always be about the person. It should always be about the receiver. When it is about you, when the actions are centered upon you and what you want to see happen, then that is when it begins to move into the toxic side.
All right, so let's get into it. Especially if acts of service is literally your love language. If you know, if you don't know, then book a session with us.
Yes.
Because we definitely help our couples to really identify which love language they most frequently which is their number one, and how they operate. But acts of service. So what is it? What does it look like, feel like, or sound like? So I'll let you take away from it, and put in the chat area if you know your love language. Write it out, put it down. Share it with us.
Yeah, all the acts of service, all y'all that are acts of service, if that's your number one or your number two, be sure to put that in the chat. And so acts of service is performing a preferred task for your partner. This is the important part, that you know they would like. So this is about serving your partner.
Say it again.
This is about a preferred task for your partner that you know they would like. This is about serving your partner, being in service to another. Aaron Daniels says that acts of service individuals have the biggest soft spots for people who aid in their daily tasks. That's why when you see the little girl right here with a smile on her face, we know that is not an actual depiction of a person that is definitely an act of service, because we know children don't like doing nothing. Yeah, at all, especially in this day and age. So, but when we talk about acts of service, and this is spot on, Charmaine is a creative. She is very out of the box, and so those routine, daily, everyday duties, those are non-preferred activities for her. I will just say that. So something as simple as just making sure that our daughter has a shower, that she's eaten, making sure that she's eaten, making sure that she comes to bed at a decent time, and she's falling asleep at the desk doing work. That's or true. Those little things, they seem to make a big difference in her life.
And I got to call because he is so amazing. Oh my gosh, my husband is everything. He definitely takes good care of me.
I just do the best I can. I'm just here so I don't get fired.
And he has truly learned to love me and to do some of those acts of service. And so I definitely appreciate that. But you know what? We weren't always here. And there was a moment where he was like, she don't love me.
Absolutely.
And I was like, okay, he don't love me either. you know, because he keep buying me these presents. And I'm like, what? Yeah, I thank you.
Yeah.
But, you know, you could have rubbed my feet.
Yeah, exactly.
That's free. That's no money.
And that's a big one too. When again, you're trying to, where once you finally accept that that's your partner's love language, and that you believe it and that you actually walk in it. Because most of the time what happens is we express love to our partner in our language. And we are expecting a response because it is how we will respond if we had gotten what we had gotten from them. But that is, again, us recognizing that, again, our partner's love language, we are to speak to them in their language, especially if we're looking at meeting their particular need.
So real talk before we go, we have a comment. So thank you for definitely putting the comments in. We want to hear from you. What is your love language? What has been your experience? But I'm just going to tell you, a testimony moment. I will admit, you know, I am an acts of service person, and we didn't know about love languages early when we got married. And so my way of like loving on him is funny because, like, if my father-in-law loves deviled eggs, and I done made 200 deviled eggs for his sister family, for his parents, and I'm cooking food and I'm making this for that. Like, I'm thinking like he would see that. No, that's clearly like I love you. And he's like, you don't love me. You don't love, and I'm like, but I'm loving on your mama, right? I'm loving on your sister and her family. Like, they got me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm with you, but your family is my family now. And when I do things for them, that clearly is an expression of not only that I love you, but I love your family. I love the people who contributed to you, right? And we were missing each other.
Yeah, that situation that she just described is exactly what happened. Where I was, again, we were just challenged in figuring out our love language
and that wasn't your love, and communicating.
It was not. But what happened was and I still remember it to this day. It was 3:00 in the morning, and the next day we were going over to my parents' house to celebrate. And I got up to figure out why she wasn't in the bed, and she was making these deviled eggs. And that's when it hit me that this is how she shows love. This is her expressing in her language how she loves. And so that's when I actually got it. And so seeing it in action again helped to resonate within me and really helped me to understand that that's how she loved. But got a comment. Alicia is going in. Alicia says, I just did the private intensive and learned that tit for tats are so toxic.
Come on.
Also being in the state of mind where you are doing the confirmation bias as well as the fundamental attribution errors. My partner is acts of service. And because he works from home, he and me taking care of our son and getting the house stuff situated and making sure he has breakfast so he can focus and not have to worry. When I made him lunch today, he was so happy and was able to express how much he loved me. The intensive was like night and day. Hassani really did a great job of my partner acknowledging mine. Although I already was doing my partner, he wasn't doing mine, and he overcame some issues with mine, which is physical touch and gifts. And now he gets it.
Man. We're gonna celebrate this.
Absolutely. All right, Alicia, congrats to you.
Chair dance right now. And it's so true. You gotta do the work. And you know what? I'm proud of you because sometimes, right, we want to hold out on giving our customer service until our customer service is met, until we have a satisfactory rating of customer service on our end. So I definitely applaud you.
Absolutely.
You pushing, you know what, I'm going to give, even though I may not even be getting it right now. But if I want love, I'm going to express it and give to my partner what they need in this moment. And we will start to see their heart just open up. Sometimes people want to trust, but guess what? You're not willing to start trusting first, right? And so we are often called to really, really pay attention to the needs of our loved ones. And if you're caring for them, they're caring for you. It definitely you'll make that progress. So I definitely applaud that.
This is Before I Do. We're talking about toxic expectations. And so we're getting ready to get into our first question of the night. Our topic is acts of service, which is the 5 love languages. So our first question, what are your favorite acts of service that you enjoy doing for others? What do you enjoy doing for other people? And why is this something that you enjoy doing? So we are going to take a quick commercial break, and we will be right back with more Before I Do.
Hi, my name is Shawn Olivier, and I'm from Louisiana. My husband and I came to Last Chance Weekend because it was definitely our last chance. We were lost in the process. Being here is an experience that I can't really explain. You definitely have to experience it. I was the person that thought they will not get to me. My mind is my mind. It is set. This is how I feel. I will not budge. After the first day, it was pretty tough. It was long hours and it was hard conversations. The next day was a breaking point for me. It showed me how much my husband and I really still loved each other, that there was hope for our marriage. I watched testimonials, I've watched videos, and I did not believe it. I was like, there's no way 3 days is going to get you to a different point. Believe me when I say that there is hope, that you feel a sense of freedom within yourself and your marriage. I would not trust my well-being, my love, my marriage in any other hands than Couples Academy. That is my truth. They will forever be our family, our friends. I trust them, and I do not trust easily. If you are struggling with your own self-doubts, your own self-love, your marriage, get here. It is worth it. It is worth it. It is worth it.
You're tuned in to Before I Do. This is Before I Do. The episode tonight is Toxic Expectations, Acts of Service. That last testimonial was from Last Chance Weekend, and Miss Alicia is going in. Her and her husband just came back from a Couples Academy intensive. So if you're having some challenges, please make sure that you reach out to the Couples Academy to get those services. Alicia says our question of the night is, what is your favorite act? What is your favorite acts of service and that you enjoy doing for others, and why? Alicia says, I love cooking food for them because food is life. Can you ring the bell for me on that, please?
Hey.
And seeing that, oh my face, because I am an amazing cook. Well, let me find out then. I'm an amazing cook, and it's so rewarding to not only them, but to me. I love satisfying people and making sure that their needs are met. I hate seeing people upset. Food always makes people happy. Ring the bell again for me, please.
Say that again.
Absolutely.
All right. And right now, you know, I know my husband is thinking that my wife is overdue. So your testimony, Alicia, I'm sure is like, I hope that, you know, that was a hint.
Won't he will.
I get in the kitchen.
Won't he will. You better speak, Holy.
It's been a while. But no, you are so right. Food, fellowship, there is something that there's an anointing and a good plate of food and being around people you care about. So yes,
it's a blessing to be a blessing. And so off the camera, as a matter of fact, my wife was just sharing with me how good I am at acts of service. And once I got my motivation right, in my heart, what I realized is that I enjoy doing it. Like I really, and I always enjoy as far as doing those things outside of the home and to people in the community, because again, they weren't expecting it, and they didn't have to live with me every day, and they seem more appreciative. But it's oftentimes hard for us to show and walk in those acts of service to the people that we see every day, to the ones to our loved ones who we live under the same roof. And it's because we don't always get the pats on the back. We don't always get the accolades. We don't always get the public acknowledgement. But when you really are doing it because it's genuinely something that you know that it's righteous, in other words, the right thing to do, I tell you, the feeling that you have when you do it, and just like you said, Alicia, seeing the looks on their face and the expression is such a blessing.
All right. And so when acts of service, what happens when they become toxic?
Yes.
And so when, let's say acts of service is my love language, right? And I am the receiver. And so talk about when it becomes toxic. What are your thoughts about that?
Absolutely. So we've been talking about, we talk about these love languages, and with acts of service, when it becomes toxic, one of the things that makes acts of service toxic is when, and this is from the receiver perspective. So this is the individual that acts of service is your love language. So it is toxic when occasional gestures become routine expectations.
Oh, come on.
Now, keep in mind again, when occasional gestures become routine expectations. So it cannot always be an expectation that your spouse is going to be able to always pick up or do these particular acts of service. Time may be a factor. Ability may be a factor. Finances. They have other priorities and things that they are attending to. So we shouldn't allow ourselves to put these expectations on our partner where now they become a part of their daily duties and responsibilities, which leads into the next toxic of acts of service, is that expecting your partner to take on all the dirty work and the chores, all the non-preferred activities, the things that you don't want to do, but you know that are part of your responsibility in the division of labor within the home. You shouldn't just pawn those things off on our partner because we don't want to do them and because acts of service is your love language. So
okay, and this might sound like this. Well, you know, I don't really want to. I'm not good at like cleaning up. So yeah, nah. I'm not gonna do that.
I don't like washing dishes. Nobody like washing dishes.
Exactly.
What kind of comment is that? Nobody likes washing dishes.
You know, and so just really making sure that you are not really you're not covering this with, oh, well, it's not really my love language. First of all, you don't get to get out of it because it's not your love language.
Right.
And two, it becomes toxic when it becomes a burden, a mandate, something that now this person isn't even doing as an expression of love.
Right.
They're doing it because you made it a mandate.
It's an obligation.
It's an obligation. So that's when it becomes toxic. And especially when you refuse to acknowledge an individual's effort.
Absolutely.
That's when it becomes toxic as well. So as a receiver of someone who, you know, your acts of service is your love language, you want to make sure that you are showing appreciation. Expectations will not become toxic if you lead with appreciation. Once appreciation stops, it ceases to come from your mouth, your expression, and your response to it. You have made it's become toxic.
Yeah, and I will say that as a giver, you know, the bottom line is you won't always get it right. And especially in the earlier stages where you are when you're trying to speak your partner's love language, especially in acts of service, you're gonna get it wrong. And we'll get into how it can become toxic on the giving side. But one of the things that the receivers can really do is acknowledging the effort.
Absolutely.
Like being able to say thank you for what you did, even though it may have been burnt, it may be cold.
Is it burnt or is it Cajun?
I don't know. It depends on your attitude on that day. But the point is that just to acknowledge the effort, that makes the biggest difference. Alicia talked about again the fact that when she brings food to the table, the looks on everybody's faces, you know, that fills up and encourages the giver. Like that lets them know that my effort and what I'm doing that is seen and it's not in vain. That it's not something that is undervalued. It's something that is appreciated. And that goes a long way in being able to continue on and even wanting to speak your partner's love language.
Yeah, I mean, because let's be real, we all need and like when people see us. So this is not even about feeding somebody's ego to affirm them. More so, this is about saying, you know what, I see you and I appreciate you. Now, you might have just tasted that thing that you tried to cook. It's not your gift, but we all tasted it, and it had some uniqueness and, you know, palate. You know, my palate is really asking some questions right now, but I see you, and it took you hours on your feet in that kitchen to prepare this. So we're gonna taste it and we're gonna appreciate it.
As we taught our daughter to say, it was interesting. It was interesting. So we taught our daughter to say it was interesting. So acknowledging those efforts are a really big part of making sure that we're encouraging individuals in their love languages. So you had a couple of notes I think you were going to share, right?
Well, yeah. So I definitely wanted to share that when it comes to just expectations in general, moving from them being healthy to really being toxic, we really want to make sure that we, you know, expectations, I think when when we are asking our partners to really go against their value system, that's when the expectation moves from healthy to being toxic. And so, and not just your values, meaning you don't want to do something, but like the core of who you are, right? And so we just want to make sure when it comes to acts of service, because let's be honest, we don't want to move into that, well, if you love me, you would dot, dot, dot. If you love me, you would, I don't know, do something that really goes against who they are and their core values. That is when an expectation turns toxic. If you know that, you know, I don't drink alcohol for my own personal reasons, well, if you love me, you know, just take a drink. Like, really calm down, stop being extra. No, that's when we went from, you know, something that we went from healthy to like really toxic quickly. So really asking your partner to violate their core values, that is when an expectation becomes toxic. When we're expecting them to really, we're questioning their masculinity, femininity, you know, well, a real man, dot, dot, dot. Well, I thought you was a woman. You acting like, you know what I mean? Like when we want to now challenge, you know, their core being just because they're not responding or doing the things that we want them to do. Yeah, you move from safe to like toxic and unhealthy and harmful.
Absolutely.
And from 0 to 100 when those type of statements leave your mouth, because now it is relationship bullying. Now you are really moving into, you know, a very it's an unhealthy place.
We're talking about acts of service when it becomes toxic. So we're getting ready to go into our Speak Now question number 2 of the night. And that question is, we talked about those non-preferred activities. So question number 2, what are your least favorite, what are your non-preferred acts of service that you do for others? And why is it your least favorite? What are those things that you absolutely abhor doing? So we're going to take another quick commercial break. You all check this out, and we'll be right back with more before I do.
Welcome back to Before I Do. We're talking about pretty much acts of service as a love language and when it goes from healthy to toxic, when the expectations become toxic. And so leading back into, we just went into our second Speak Now, Forever Hold Your Peace question number 2. What is your least favorite act of service that you provide to others? It's very easy for us to come up with a list of things we love to do for other people, right? Because it gives us joy. But what is your least favorite? These are the things that, you know, it brings other people joy. And so one way is that we help couples in our sessions and other practitioners with Couples Academy as well, is when you figure out really what your strongest love language is, then at some point you need to look at what's the love language that has the lowest percentage there for you. And so for me, it's gifts. But guess what? I have people in my life who, I have a close friend, that's her top love language is gifts. And that is definitely on my husband's acts of service list. And so when I think about it, my least favorite is gifts. You know why? Because that requires me to shop. And I don't like shopping. Let me tell you, the shopping experience for me is I walk in the store, I already know what I want, I scan the room, I go to where I see, some decent prices at. I want to go, I want to see it, I want to like it, I want it to be the right size, or it needs to speak to me. I buy it, I'm out, done, 10 minutes. But the challenge is for someone who has a different love language, and it's not yours, it just can be a challenge. And so, yeah, for me, it's buying gifts for other people because it's stressful for me, because now I have all these questions. Well, what if I buy this and it doesn't fit? Well, what if I buy this and they don't really need it? And then what if I'm asking a million questions and now I'm stressed out. And so now I have talked myself out of doing the very thing that I came in the store to do. And
you said you don't like shopping. The Amazon test shows that was a lie.
You being Maury Povich right exactly. Now. You are not telling the truth.
Absolutely,
right now.
But that's actually where the genuineness is tested.
Yes.
When it comes to acts of service.
And stamina.
Absolutely.
And stamina.
That's where the genuineness and the authenticity is tested, especially in acts of service. Mm-hmm. Are you able to fulfill and meet those needs when they are non-preferred for you?
Absolutely.
Because it's not about you.
It's about you.
It's about your partner. Mm-hmm. So on the giving side, when we talk about acts of service, there are a couple of things that can turn that toxic. The first one is actions that are done in lieu or in substitution of your primary responsibilities. So when you're well, I don't know why I went and got her oil change done, bro. You didn't pay the bills. I bought her lunch. I brought her lunch to work. You didn't drop the children off at school this morning like you were supposed to. So when we try to utilize acts of service in substitution for the things that we're actually responsible for, those things need to be in addition. It is not a substitution. Yeah, it is not a substitution. It is in addition to the things that we already do, which again, as we talked earlier, as it relates to understanding that it's not going to be all the time that I'm going to be able to put your clothes up. I can't do it. So and it's a non-preferred activity for me. I don't like putting up clothes myself. Mm-hmm. So, the whole idea of it becoming an expectation or me doing that in replacement for another responsibility that I have is when acts of service becomes toxic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we have some comments here.
Yeah.
Oh, you better go ahead and put us in the class, Alicia. She has what? I'm gonna put it out. Alicia says, "What are y'all personality styles?" Question mark. I know you want to know.
That's a whole nother show.
That's a whole nother show. We gotta guess what Charmaine and Walter's personality styles are. Absolutely. But you did mention too that really people's nature and their nurture. It is definitely possible that those two things can clash.
Absolutely. Yeah. So the next thing when it comes to the giver perspective that can become toxic is when you are not embracing the how in conjunction with the what. I'm going to say that again. When you don't embrace the how in conjunction with the what, we oftentimes as the giver want credit for what we did, but don't necessarily pay attention to how we're doing it and those details that go along with it. For example, my wife is very particular when it comes to certain food and brands or the way that certain food is prepared. So it's not a matter of me just going to get her favorite food, but it's also making sure that that food is prepared the right way. It's not a matter of going to the store and getting popsicles for her or getting chips or getting just a general item. It has to be a specific brand. I'm not saying that in judgment. I'm saying that as a student that is working on his partner PhD. And so again, it's not just the meeting the what, but it's learning how to embrace the how and not becoming frustrated in the process of that. And for a long time, I absolutely did. I'm like, why isn't the what good enough? And the how is an important part of making sure that you are showing that you're doing it for the right reason.
And that is a common thread. It's really, again, going back to keeping your partner at the center, right? Because if I'm trying to speak his love language, and let's say I know his love language is not acts of service, in me trying to really express love for him, right? And his love language, it's not really, and we will find that's a common thread. Keep him at the center. So I can't just think of, I will stress myself out trying to say I got to pick the perfect thing that's really going to suit him. Really, it goes back to really my why. Why am I doing it? I want to put a smile on his face today, right? So even if I get him something that he doesn't like, I want to put a smile on his face. So, it goes back to he's going to be happy and genuinely happy that I just thought about him.
Absolutely. So,
right?
Yeah.
It's not about getting it right.
It's not about getting it right.
Putting
it's about
him
the effort
at the core and the center of, I thought about you today.
Exactly.
And this is my expression of my thinking about you today.
Absolutely. On the other side, there's some people that you thought about me, but you didn't get the right brand. You thought about, and again, I have to be okay with that. That again, because she did it for me, and it's like I just the fact you thought about me is good enough. But for her, I have to make sure that the how and that I'm focusing on accuracy and what it is that I've gotten for her. Now, this last one, Alicia actually alluded to this earlier. Scorekeeping. Trying to balance the relationship by keeping count of what you are doing for an individual. So when you start, one of the things that I learned about that I learned about my wife is that recalling back to her what I did, how many times I did it. Well, I did so and so and so and so. That is the quickest way to get completely cut off, and you ain't got to do nothing else for me. So scorekeeping and the tit for tat that Alicia referred to earlier will absolutely destroy your marriage and your relationship, because again, it shows that you're not doing it from an authentic place, or you may be giving just to get.
Absolutely. And that scorekeeping piece is big, because if you, and I love that Alicia mentioned this,
yes,
again, our nature, the core of who we are. For those of you who are literally, you are dating and or married to someone who is, they definitely have that strong individualism, that confident individualism, meaning that they're already independent, and and you throw up in their face, or what you've done, and you running out this long list. For the individualists, who are kind of strong personalities, they kind of love doing things on their own at times. You're just really fueling them being like, okay, well, first of all, I didn't ask you to do that. And then two, like, I really didn't even need you to do that. But okay, don't worry. You don't have to worry about doing it no more.
That's right.
If it's going to bother you in this way. Because now, to be honest, you just made that a distraction.
That's
now
right.
I can't even receive it as something that you did for me. Now you're telling me that you're being burdened by something you did for me. And so I'm going to help you relieve you from this burden. Okay, you don't got to do nothing for me again in this area. I got it. And so that's counter to what you want. Really, you did it because you want to show love, right? And so sometimes we can't get in an emotional state again because we didn't get the reaction we wanted, and or we didn't feel like it was received in the way that you genuinely intended it to be received.
Yep. So we talked about toxicity and acts of service on both the giver side and also the receiver side, but we also want to share a couple of safety measures, or how do we prevent it from becoming toxic. One of the ways that we can do that is by clearly communicating preferred acts of service. So that is, again, on both the giver and the receiver side. So for the receiver, being able to share, these are some of the things that where I really need help, that I really would appreciate some assistance. And then it's also, for me, on the giving side, these are the things that I can genuinely and I can do from my heart. Like I can genuinely do this, and it not be something that I'm going to have that I'm going to have animosity for you because I really don't, because not only I don't want to do it, I don't have the time to do it, I don't have the capacity right now to do it. And the reason why that's important, because you can build that capacity, but it oftentimes starts with the areas where you do naturally like to give. We asked the first question was, what are the acts of service that you enjoy doing for people? And so those things that align with your partner's needs, you want to start there. Don't start with the stuff you don't really like doing first. Start with the things that you really enjoy doing, and then build up to those things that are actually non-preferred, and give yourself a good rhythm as you get into it.
Absolutely. And the next thing that you can do is, one, be observant. Watch. This was something I had to learn to do, to be honest, as far as being able to speak. My husband's love language is, I had to start listening and paying attention. And because my memory was not the best, right, I started using my cell phone to like write down things I noticed he liked all year long, because sometimes for me the anxiety would build up, like, okay, it's a special situation coming up, Father's Day or birthdays coming up. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do, and what am I going to get, or how am I going to adjust to this, right? But I should have been taking notes all year long. Like I should have been observing and listening in conversation. If something randomly comes up, writing those things down. And let's be real, we live in an Amazon society, right? And so now couples, especially if they're missing each other in certain areas, there's ways where you can really start to buy gifts and or show appreciation in a person's love language. And there's like a list of, if somebody's acts of service, ask them, throughout the year, notice what they're doing. Right. And then adding those things to your list.
All right. And then the last one is, remember that acts of service is an investment of time and energy. Now, again, notice that all of these are things that both the giver and the receiver can do to help make sure that they maintain a healthy relationship when it comes to the implementation of acts and service. So again, as a giver, my wife wants to see and know that I invested my time, that I am expending energy to do these duties. Now, if I got money like that and I can pay somebody to do it, sometimes that's appropriate, and I can do that. But most of the time, the whole idea of a love language is you being able to express that, you showing that I love you enough to take the time to do this. I love you enough and I appreciate you enough to expend the energy in doing this. I could either not do it, or I could pay somebody to do it, but I am investing the time and the energy to do it. And then on the receiver side, it's important for them to be able to recognize that and appreciate, again, the time and the energy that the person has spent in order to try to make that acts of service happen.
Yeah, so it's big. Again, expectations, there are healthy expectations and there are toxic ones. And when it comes to acts of service, any expectation that would require your partner, if you love me, then you would. But it's counter to their core values. It is counter to even their nature and their personality. And them doing this is literally going to build resentment, harbor, then we have to be careful, because that's when you move from a healthy expectation to a toxic one.
And speaking of expectations, we actually have a question from Lady Di. Lady Di says, how do you handle expectations from each other?
All right. And I know. And so, you know what? You definitely have to have conversation. You need to talk to each other. Expectations become toxic, to be honest, when they're unspoken. Like sometimes those are the worst expectations. The people who expect you to be a mind reader. Why should I have to say it? You should just know. People put out there as if love automatically is the cure to you being psychic and you knowing what it is that I want, and you being able to accommodate those needs. So when love becomes an anecdote, because you love me, you should just know. I shouldn't have to say it. I shouldn't have to tell you that I need a hug right now. I shouldn't have to tell you that, I want to kiss after the show. Or, I shouldn't have to tell you those things. Like, you should just know. And yeah, so
Every day is different. every day is different.
So again, I will say, you do have to have an open relationship.
Yeah.
You cannot be scared to share and communicate and be vulnerable to really whatever you want. You got to be the leader in that thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You want more trust, and guess what? You got to be the first one to step out there and start the trust process.
Yeah, I would say that you combat expectations with truth. It is really important for both of you to be completely honest with one another about not only your expectations, but also your willingness and ability to be able to meet them. And that's part of the challenge, because when you really love somebody, you don't want to disappoint them.
Absolutely.
But the way we set one another up oftentimes for disappointment is by not being honest about what we can really do. So again, that's part of having that courageous conversation about, look, these are the expectations that I have for you. And you being able to say, thank you for letting me know that. And to be perfectly honest, I can do such and such and such, but to be honest, right now in this season, I don't think I can do this. And you be amazed at how that really strengthens the bond between you. Exactly.
Can you be patient with me while I'm growing in this area? We didn't get here overnight, and it took a while, for both of us to recognize how we were expressing and showing love. And then we realized, man, I'm expressing love this way, and I need to work that muscle, and I need to express love in his love language. And so I don't know, we getting some good comments.
Yeah, we are.
Y'all to go to bed.
Yeah, y'all hold it. Y'all, we way over time, but if y'all keep asking, we sure gonna keep going a little bit.
All right, I'm gonna put it up. All right, Chicago for life. Thank you for tuning in. It says it's too much back and forth, and after a while, it becomes I did this for you, and now you got to do this for me.
That's that scorekeeping that we were just talking about. And here's the thing, right? If there's a back and forth, that means that someone has to make a commitment to be the bigger person.
Absolutely.
Someone has to make the decision to shut it down and to keep focus on whatever the issue is, or to take a break and then come back together to have a constructive discussion before it gets to those type of toxic comments. You want to be the person that actually makes the commitment to stop that conversation.
Because there shouldn't be the back and forth.
Right.
At some point, you know what? The conversation is on pause. And until both of us can come back, and this is how we handle conflict resolution. You have to identify the issue.
And it reminds me too of the phrase that you like to use from Dr. Phil. Dr. Phil says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Absolutely.
So oftentimes in the argument, we want to be right. We don't want to, and if you want to be happy, sometimes you have to be okay with saying that I'm gonna shut down my part as far as with engaging in this, because it is not being productive at the risk of me looking like I lost. And nobody wants to feel like they lost an argument, especially in a partnership and in a relationship.
But there have to be a winner or a loser.
Exactly.
There needs to be this needs to be a win-win.
Exactly.
And see, it's actually communication when there is a win-win. Winning means we're both listening.
And if I lost, that means you lost too.
Absolutely.
Because there's no one winner when in a relationship. We either both win or we both lose. If one person feels like they lost the argument, then both parties lost. So it sounds like Chicago for life, that there needs to be a commitment to you all to have constructive conversations, and we can definitely help with that. Be sure to reach out to us and get some intervention in that, because that's very important. And last question, Joyful says, suppose your partner doesn't express their expectations. How can you handle this?
Now that is a challenging one. And you know what? I'm just gonna put this out there, because we do a lot of different strategies when it comes to communication, all of the practitioners at Couples Academy. But let's be honest, we have learned a lot about how we communicate from our foundational families and our upbringing. Culture plays a big role, right? Our verbal communication and our nonverbal communication, right? And so when it comes to a partner who doesn't express their expectations, but they have them, first of all, they may not be proactive in expressing those expectations. But believe me, I'm sure they respond when their needs are not being met or when they're not getting the results they want. And so I'm going to challenge you, to observe what is the reaction? What are they saying, right, when things are not the way that they would like them to be? So they are communicating some expectations. But some people do it and they're proactive. Some people do it and they're reactive. And so first of all, pay attention to those things. But sometimes people have a hard time looking their partner face to face and having a really courageous conversation, especially when it's hard. How do I tell my partner, like, I need us to spice it up in the bedroom? Some couples can't, they're not there yet. And so cutting the lights off when you have a courageous conversation.
Sitting back to back.
Back to back. We love in sessions to sometimes have couples sit back to back or do a shoulder to shoulder strategy when you're dealing, especially, you know, depending on if those visual cues have, you know, make your partner a little bit more nervous or upset. There's different strategies, but turning the lights off sometimes calms it down. We're in the dark. We have a specific place. So I just would sometimes change the setting, right? The ambiance in which we have these courageous conversations, but also start to be more observant about how they respond when things are not going the way they want. Because they're still communicating. It's just a reactive approach about their expectations instead of a proactive one.
Listen, you all, we've gone way over time, and it's all y'all fault. And we want to say thank you because we absolutely love doing this. We appreciated the questions. Thank you all for tuning in to Before I Do. Listen, you all, this is only night one of a 5-part series of toxic expectations. We are going through the 5 love languages. Tonight we covered acts of service. And so we will get into another one next week. And so please be sure to tune in, like, share, subscribe, spread the word. If you are dating, if you know somebody that's dating, if you know someone that's single, if you know someone that could benefit not only from this show, but from the Couples Academy service, be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
And book a session. Call Couples Academy. Absolutely.
So thank y'all for tuning in to Couples Academy. Before I do, we'll see y'all next week. Peace, y'all.
Welcome to the Couples Academy app. The Couples Academy app is your go-to hub for how to do marriage right. Get started with our app today by perusing our amazing features that conveniently allow you to connect. This app is packed with powerful content and resources to help you grow and stay connected. With this app, you can watch our messages, find marriage resources, watch, listen, and read the real-life stories of restored couples, sign up for events, read articles and blog posts, stay up to date with push notifications, share your favorite messages via Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, or email, and download messages for offline listening. For more information about the Couples Academy app, go to couplesacademy.org.